Okay, so a bit of a weird one. I started out trying to test one thing and found something, I guess, completely different. Yeah, we're gonna take a look at. Yeah, it's a little weird. So you guys might be familiar with the Valentine's Day build. That's the one in the pink case with the pink and the red parts that I had red memory and sort of a pink video card and a pink case, and the RGB was supposed to work and all that, but it didn't. So it's a Core i3 1005F. It is an RX 560 that I took out of the Dell revisit, and I'll kind of link that video so you guys can find that. But I started testing that, and my ultimate goal was to see if I couldn't find a couple of tests with this i3 on affordable GPUs, since GPU prices are coming down. I was going to test the RX 560 4 gig. I went ahead and I have tested, but the video is going to be a little different here. The GTX 1660, and just trying to see. I've already tested with the 6600 XT, which is just a little bit higher than I think some people might want to spend. But we're going to concentrate on some of the lower stuff, except for I found something really weird with the RX 560. Which is the video card I took out of the Dell prebuilt that I bought off of Amazon. When I did this and I started benchmarking things, I found that the RX 560 was about the same performance in both computers. The problem with that is it's sitting in the PC that has the i3 in it. It's several years newer. It's 6 generations newer than the Core i5 4670 that was in the Dell prebuilt. The Dell prebuilt not only has an older CPU, it has half the memory, running at half the clock speed at least, and it's, like I said, it's a 6th generation older computer. So why in the world was I getting, I don't know. We'll have to go through these, okay? So like I said, we're going to do a follow-up on this later with affordable GPUs now that they're coming back down, but that will be a little bit later on. We'll do it with the GTX 1660. So if you're not already subscribed, do subscribe, pay attention, because that will be coming up pretty soon. That GTX 1660 is coming down in price. That makes it a little bit better. The RX 560 4 gig, on the other hand, you can get for probably about $120, $130, which is maybe a little bit more than you should be paying, but it's pretty reasonable. And it did turn out being a pretty decent gaming GPU on a little bit lower settings. Now, obviously it's not going to run AAA titles at 60 frames per second on 1080 high, but I did go through and start testing these and found that if you're going 1080 medium or 1080 low, it's not too bad. It's fairly playable in most cases. The surprising thing is, I said that about the Dell prebuilt too. So we're going to look, the first thing, we're always going to start with Shadow of the Tomb Raider, and the first thing out of the gate is how close, almost frame rate to frame rate, these things are. They're almost the same FPS in both. The load times were a little bit quicker with the i3. It's just a faster moving PC, so I understand that. The load times are a little bit quicker. It still ran, all the benchmarks and playing around with it and all that stuff, still ran really close to the same. I mean, there wasn't much of a difference that I remember from the old Dell to this new build. Then I thought, okay, maybe that's just a little bit weird, and I ran Borderlands 3, and we went through that, and again, almost frame per frame, almost the same FPS in all three. It was really, at this point, starting to get a little bit bizarre. With Far Cry 5, again, same thing, almost FPS for FPS. It's definitely within margin of error on all three of these games. I was totally, I don't want to say confused. I was very, very surprised, because again, we're talking about the older Dell pre-built that I tested this on the first time. And not only that, it had older drivers. So this has updated drivers in it, and the older Dell has half the memory, a slower processor. It's 4-core, 4-thread, so it's got half the logical cores on the processor. I can't, this part, I mean, to now, I couldn't explain anything. Then I went ahead and I ran the next set of tests, Forza Horizon 4. No, I don't have 5 yet. I've already explained that I don't have Far Cry 6 and Forza Horizon 5 yet, partly because I've got older benchmarks that I'm still comparing stuff to, like this one. And lo and behold, the older i5 beats the newer i3. I I can't, I have no reason to be able to explain that. Like I said, slower clock speed, slower memory, half the memory, yeah, there's no bells and whistles on that Dell. We get a little bit back to normal when we're looking at World War Z, and then the wheels fall off again when we're looking at Horizon Zero Dawn. Now, lower settings, 1080p low, like I said, for both of these systems is going to be playable. The RX 560, I was just thinking maybe that's just where it caps out. No matter, if it's got 4 cores or 6 cores, whatever the deal is, as long as it's got 4 cores, it's going to be fat, dumb, and happy at about those speeds, and maybe that's about all it's going to be. But you have to remember, too, that games like Borderlands 3 and Horizon Zero Dawn take up more system memory than that little Dell had. So in the case of Horizon Zero Dawn, it was actually beating the newer i3 with more system memory, and it was trading blows with it in almost everything else except for basically a couple of games. It's either dead even or the older i5 wins. Now, I'm at a loss for trying to explain this. It's in a smaller case, limited airflow. Again, the CPU is 6 generations older. The memory is half as much, going at least half the transfer speed. I'm at a total loss for why this is. Now, when I did, and I have done all the benchmarks for the GTX 1660, and like I said, we will get to that in a future video. But for this case, I'm really, really even at a loss. The one esports title we did go ahead and do, CSGO, you would say that would be about even. It's within maybe margin of error. The i3 did actually score a victory on that, but I mean, just barely. It's still margin of error. But really, really confuses me is the 2 tests that I ran where the older i5 actually comes out on the higher or better than the i3. And I go back and I run these tests multiple times, and I do a blind test. I don't go through and say, "Well, I got it on this one. What did I get on that one?" No, I write everything. I write everything on a chart or on scratch paper or whatever, and then I go back and I put everything in. And in this case, I had the numbers from the RX 560 already in, and like I said, even on a little bit older driver. And I just now input, or a little bit last night, input all the ones from the i3 and was just dumbfounded as to why they were so close or why the older Dell actually beats it. Now, I do realize that the older Dell is an i5 and this one's an i3, but there are some differences in architecture, and we've already kind of discovered on this channel that a newer 4-core 8-thread can beat out an older 6-core 12-thread in some cases with the AMD products. So I'm not thinking that a 6th generation old i5 is going to be expected to beat a newer i3. I don't get it. If you have any thoughts, if you have any kind of suggestions or have any kind of reasons why this might be the case, leave it in the comments below, because I'm at a loss. I have tested the other stuff and it's about what I expected it to be, but that RX 560, it makes me want to go back and put more memory in the Dell and maybe try that with a 1650 Super, or maybe get a video card extender or something like that and try a test. But I'd have to get another power supply. The power supply is not heavy enough, or not. It's not stout enough to be able to take care of that 1660. But maybe I can run those tests, the 1660, on that older 4670 i5 and see what that does, because that's really, really confusing. And that might have to be a whole nother video. Anyway, like I said, if you have any thoughts on this, if you got any idea or can you explain to me how this might have happened like this, and I did not get the numbers swapped, I promise. The other numbers already existed before I added the new numbers. So I have no explanation of why it is, but I'm really surprised, especially because that i3, it really, really is a good processor. And I don't know. I just don't know. I could see if they were the same and that's where the 560 capped out and it wasn't going to get any better no matter how good the processor was. But that doesn't explain why the older processor beat the newer one in some other tests. Anyway, if you liked the video or found it helpful, I don't know how you could find it helpful because it's confusing as all heck. Give me a thumbs up. If not, give me a thumbs down. Leave me any kind of explanation, thoughts. If you've run into something similar or just thought it was interesting, leave me some comments. Let me know. Let me know what your thoughts are. I'd be glad to hear them. I'd be really, any direction I can go from here would be interesting. But that's all I got for right now. So until next time, I'll see you later.